Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Money. I'm your host Fatima Attarwala, and with me today is Abdul Aleem, CEO and Secretary General of OICCI. OICCI is the largest taxpayer of Pakistan because it has over 200 companies from over 30 countries. When we talk about investments and foreign and FDI in Pakistan, we generally look towards OICCI to figure out what's happening in the economy. Hello, sir. Great to have you on my show.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here.
So right now with the budget around the corner and the IMF tranche that is just received and talks with the IMF, I think the one thing that we are all concerned with is whether the taxes on the salaried class will increase or not.
Should not. And that's what we have recommended. We have given a very extensive budget proposals, tax proposals to the government of Pakistan. And our recommendation is that, we have made lots of recommendations to streamline the tax structure in various, I'll give you more details as we go along. But when you asked for the salaries, certainly there is a recognition that the salary taxes have been unduly increased in the past, and that should be rationalized. So there is the opportunity, and our impression is that the government also realizes, because the finance minister has been on record a couple of times that there is a recognition that salary taxes should be rationalized. One of the recommendations that we have done in our tax proposal is that right now the minimum tax is tax-free income is 600,000. Beyond that,
600,000 per year.
Per year. That's right. It's good for clarification.
Yeah, because that's just 50,000 a month. That's
exactly
barely above the minimum.
That's
wage.
right. And considering the cost of living and all the other factors in taking into account, what we have suggested is that it should be 1.2 million, meaning 100,000 rupees per month. People should not be
taxed.
But because in the past there has been some comments from the Federal Board of Revenue that if we increase this from 600,000 to any level, then the number of tax filers will be substantially reduced. So
see, that is my question. At 50,000 a month, you're not paying a lot of taxes. You're paying very minimal taxes. It doesn't really help towards tax collection or the FDI. So the number of filers is just optics.
It is important in the sense to give feedback to all the stakeholders, including the people like IMF and the others, that number of people who are subject to tax, and once you become a filer, you come into the radar, and therefore if you are doing other activities, not everybody is just relying on that 50,000 in salaries, because and this goes for the business as well. So I think if they are doing something more than what is on record, then I think it's a good thing to be a filer in that sense. So what we have, and that's been one of the concern of the Federal Board of Revenue, because they also recognize that 600,000 is not enough. So based on that, what we have recommended is that anybody up to 100,000, 1.2 million per annum, but anybody getting income beyond 600,000, he or she should be paying 1,000 rupees annually. So that
1,000 rupees a year on tax.
Okay. And filing the tax returns.
So it's a trivial amount. Just so that the number of filers don't decrease.
And I think if you remember, this also gives some sort of a respect to the people that they are tax filers, and there are certain concessions if going forward the government wants to give some sort of facilities that who are the tax filers and all those. So in that way, it's not going to be a burden as such. That's what
obviously 1,000 a year is not a burden on anybody, the taxes. But I don't think anybody really wants to be within the tax net. I think the really high taxes have incentivized people to go into the informal sector and not be on the radar. Because the more you're on the radar, the more squeeze you'll get.
The other thing that we have recommended for salaried people is that there is a lot provident fund, for example, in certain companies give provident fund. Right now the law says that it should be 10% or 150,000. That is not reasonable, because salaries have gone up over the years with the cost of living. So what we have said that you keep it to 10%, whatever is the amount. If somebody is getting higher salaries, as long as the provident fund contribution, for example, is up to 10%, that should be allowed. Similarly, house building for salaried people, we have said that there should be some concession on that. Similarly, in the past there was some incentive on getting insurance and investment in various government funds. So that used to get some credit. So it was withdrawn. So we have said, recommended to the.
So you've recommended to the government that if somebody invests in insurance or government funds, they get a tax waiver.
They used to in the past. We have, it was withdrawn, so we have said that government should reconsider, because this will affect some sort of a saving as well as encourage long-term planning for these people.
So, and how would the Provident Fund, the changes you mentioned, the Provident Fund help, say, somebody who's earning 250,000 a month?
It depends on the income. It was basically hurting people who are getting higher salaries.
Higher salaries. So
and I think there is no harm in giving benefit to those people with higher salaries, because these are skilled people. And if you remember that with the harsh measures that were taken last year, a lot of people have migrated out of Pakistan because at the end of the day their saving was not good enough, and they were not they could not educate their children in high salary, high fees in schools and good schools and all those. So whatever it is, I think they should be looked after. That's all we are.
Absolutely. I mean, just because you're earning 500,000 a month, you have a certain standard of living, and 500,000 is just a mid-level skilled professional who has more opportunities in, say, US, Canada, Australia. If they're squeezed too much, they would want to leave. So the Provident Fund measures that the OICCI has recommended, how would that help somebody who is earning, say, 500,000?
I've not had the calculation done, but
just generally in general,
it will basically give him retirement savings much better than what it is today. So therefore, the incentive to move out of
the country reduces.
Will be reduced.
Okay. So, okay, assuming that the tax proposals of OICCI are accepted. Now, it's my understanding that the new target for FY26, the budget is about 14 trillion. So, where would those taxes come from?
There is plenty of money available if the government wants to.
If the government wants to, but
and that is that we have given the recommendations that and the government also recognized that the retail and wholesale trade, for example, is not subject to full tax. Similarly, services is not subject to full tax. The Pakistan GDP is 18% industries and 40% services. These two sectors, particularly industries, is paying 60% tax, right? Services are not paying. I mean, in certain sectors, yes, who are organized, banking and insurance and all those who are paying, but otherwise, many professionals are not subject to tax. So agriculture is 24%. We don't have numbers, but the impression is, and I think the provinces have agreed that they will be bringing them into the tax net. Similarly, the trades is very big, again 18% or 19%. So we are assuming that they don't want to pay tax, which is not right. I think they want to pay, but I think our tax system is so complicated. That they may, even if they want to, some of them may not be like to pay taxes.
Why would they want to pay taxes? Why would anybody want to pay taxes in Pakistan?
They should pay tax, otherwise the
country... They should, but why would they want to?
Because I think we have to motivate them, and if need be, we have to be hard on them. Because we cannot be give unequal opportunity to salaried person paying more taxes and subsidizing those who should be paying taxes in the. I mean, if you had one shop and after 5 years you have 3 shops, right? So obviously you have.
But then the Taj-e-Do scheme and the agricultural income tax from the provinces, nothing has really materialized. In fact, it has fallen to the ground. Just like the SOE privatization has not materialized. So implementation
but that's
is
what we are saying, that there is a limit to what the corporates can pay, the organized sector can pay, and the country, all these things are measured through tax to GDP ratio. Pakistan tax to GDP ratio right now is slightly above 10. For a country like Pakistan, it should not be less than 14 to 15%. Back in 2016, when the government at that time in Pakistan had this Vision 2020, they had rightly put a target of tax to GDP ratio of 18% by the end of 5 years. Obviously, that didn't materialize. So I don't think we can borrow more. We cannot ignore and protect those who are not paying taxes against those who are paying taxes.
Absolutely.
So from that angle, I think there is a realization in the government also, and but obviously it requires a lot of political will. Nobody would like to pay taxes on their own.
I think recently with the whole Pakistan-India conflict, the people of Pakistan have warmed towards the government and towards the other powers. So I think maybe now is a good time to show political will and enforce harsh measures. Now, for example, we have Iran-Pakistan, a 5-year document that has a whole wish list of what we are going to do with the 5 E's. But we need a roadmap for that, of how it could happen. It can't just be budget to budget.
That's right, and I think you have raised a very good point that the government has to come out, and I think you made some very good point, and let me go back. And I think, why do people not want to pay taxes? Corporates, why do corporate pay taxes, and retail and service, and the doctors and the engineers and lawyers or whoever are some of them are paying, some of them are not paying? Why? Because it is so complicated. The tax system in Pakistan is so complicated. It's not very user friendly, and therefore it's not fair to assume that everybody is avoiding it. Even if they want to, everybody cannot hire a lawyer, tax lawyer, to fill up their tax return. So therefore, it encourages people to remain as much as possible out of the tax net. So side by side with the recommendations which we have made, we have very strongly recommended that that there should be simplification of tax regime, because the tax forms are so complicated, and finance minister has at many occasions accepted this, that even at that level of his level, he had to hire a tax consultant to fill up his forms.
The finance minister?
He has recognized, but I think if you ask a lot of even FBR people, they may also have difficulty filling up their own forms.
Oh my God.
And I think, if I remember correctly, there is on record that many of the FBR people did not file the tax return, or many of the officials did not, the bureaucrats, many of the assembly members did not file tax return when they should have. So I think instead of questioning them, I think first of all, tax people should make it very simple, and as simple as it can be, and wherever possible, educate those stakeholders who are required to, but they are not filing. So the point I'm trying to make, which we have made in our tax proposal, is that there is no more time for us to delay this collecting tax from wholesaler, retailers, and service providers.
I mean, I absolutely.
And agriculture, for example.
Agricultural real estate, absolutely agree. As part of the very highly taxed salaried class, I do feel that retailers, wholesalers, the agricultural landlords should be the ones paying taxes. But again, that's the question of political will, right? If those who are in power are also the feudal landlords, then there is very little incentive to actually implement those taxes. Now again, does IMF have enough clout with these people to be able to bring about that change?
I think it's up to the government, because you come into the government with the mandate that you can implement your decisions. So if it is, I think I'm assuming, and we are assuming, that even if they are landlords and if they are sitting in the parliament, they are very responsible people, and they will not only pay for themselves, but they will encourage their other fellow farmers and people who are involved in this industry. A lot of people, I mean, there is a common knowledge that real estate doesn't pay taxes. Many other sectors, these days, a lot of people are doing, hairdressers, the big expensive, fashion designers and all those. They are marketing their product online, but they are not paying taxes, and I think they should be brought in, and there should be a data available. I narrate you a story that when I was transferred back many years back to Singapore, when I landed there, along with my immigration approval, came a letter from the Commissioner of Income Tax saying, welcome to Singapore, your SSC number is this. So I look forward to seeing your tax return when
Oh, wow.
because the calendar tax year is April there. So meaning that I was already on their record.
Already on the
Because
record.
The immigration department immediately told that this individual is coming. So that type of thing can happen in today's days and age. We go by, I will file this document to you and you will send this document to this. That is not necessary in today's days and age. Everything should be automatic.
Absolutely. I mean, we have NADA, there should be digitization. But there's so many people who do not even have a CNIC card. Like my mate does not have a CNIC because her father and her husband don't see the need for her to have CNIC. And she wants a CNIC so that she can be eligible for BISP. But she can't have it because when she goes there, they're like, either you bring your father who's bedridden in another village, or you bring the husband who's not interested. So all these people, not only are they not digitized, they don't exist in Pakistan on paper.
No, but then the system.
I mean, the whole system
I
needs to
agree,
be fixed.
and I think that is where your local leaders who get elected, it is their responsibility to make sure that people within their responsibility should get facility, because if she is not getting Benazir's BIC facility, that's not fair, because not many people should not be getting it.
Yes, but again, so much of it just comes down to efficiency and corruption. I know, she knows that if we give enough money to the people behind the counter, she will get it. But she's poor and she does not have that money. And it's just, even if she does give the money, will it get done? So the whole corruption that has become so much part of her DNA.
But it should be simplified.
It should be simplified. If it was digitized, then there wouldn't be room for that much corruption.
And I think this should be raised at various levels. I mean, I'm talking about tax and all those. For example, Pakistan has a very nice this RAST payment system. Pakistan cash economy is very big right now, 9 trillion cash in circulation. This is the one of the main problem for people not coming on the tax net. Why is there so much cash floating around in the country? If you want to make payment, your plumber has a mobile phone, Easy Paisa and all those, and the money can be transferred. But major transactions are taking place on cash basis rather than on online proper documented basis. So all this has to change. But it won't change voluntarily. It has to be, people have to be encouraged, but the system also has to be simplified, and on a need basis, I think one has to take strong action also.
Do you think demonetization, the rupees 5,000 note, which I find extremely inconvenient, if that was demonetized, do you think that would help increase digitization and more transactions through formal channels?
We have already recommended that.
Oh.
We have recommended that because this is one of the reasons for the cash economy.
Exactly.
For the bribes, for the for all transactions taking place, which should not be going through cash. You're right.
I mean, rupees 5,000. It's even now, even with all the inflation, it's a pointless. No, there's so many places where I cannot use it because they're like, oh, we'll have to give you so much change.
Exactly.
So why does it exist? And it came back.
So we have said, I mean, it's part of our proposal. It was there last year, and people laughed. This year again, I mean, people may laugh, but this is what we have.
That's part of the proposal. So, going on a tangent, going on a different direction. For so long, since the pandemic and the Russian-Ukraine crisis, Pakistan was in stabilization mode. We just barely escaped default, and then we had these import restrictions and all that. Right now, it seems there are indications that the government is turning towards growth. Its tariff program, the tariff reforms that it has proposed, on average, tariffs will come down from 19% to 9.5% over the next 5 years. That would allow a lot more imports, and the theory is that it will allow more exports because those are raw materials, inputs, intermediate goods. Interest rate has also come down. So, but these are all signs of growth. And while growth is a great thing, we tend to be in a boom-bust cycle. So, do you think that tariff rationalization at this stage is a good idea?
It is a good idea, but at the same time, it's also a necessity, because I think the other countries who are trading with you, they also want to export their products to you.
So that's just it. Do we have the money to buy those products?
I think we have to, I mean, as you mentioned, I think the government has already announced its intention that gradually they would like to reduce the import duty. So I think one thing which the government has in this program mentioned is good, that we should not be providing protection to inefficient industries. And therefore, by reducing this import duty protection to some of the industries, I think they will be creating more competition and encouraging more import and export sort of activity. So in that sense, this is a right step. But we hope that the government has done their homework, that by reducing this duty, how much growth will come. In principle, it is good, but at the same time, I think we should realize that the people in other countries, like President Trump mentioned, that you have to do trade with me and otherwise. So I think government of Pakistan has also agreed that they will be doing more trade, more importing.
Even if we import more from the US, I mean, US is such a large country. We are such a small country. We are like 33rd of their trade partners. That's how unimportant we are. So how much can we import and what can we import other than cotton and soybeans?
But that's what they are saying. That it cannot be. So, but you look at the vision that these people have. That they know that you are very small, but they are saying that no free lunches.
Exactly.
And therefore you should also improve. But we have to see how Bangladesh, for example, is managing, how China is managing, and But there are many ways of improving this ratio. I think I've narrated this story to you before, but the cost of living, production in many countries are going up. I, as OICCI member, Secretary General, I was invited in a meeting 2016 in Karachi and Sindh Board of Investment, where I think other chambers were also invited, and there was a Chinese delegation. I had received a letter that there is a Chinese delegation which has come, and that Chinese delegation leader, who could speak English, he had brought 7-8 people, and his basically story was that, and I'm talking in 2016, he says that we represent a X province, was mentioned the name. We represent this province. Our export of garments to Europe is $6 billion. We would like to transfer the whole lot to Karachi, to Pakistan, because our wages are going up and our margins are squeezing and we cannot. So we have done our homework, we have studied the whole situation, and we would like to en bloc. We guarantee you 6 billion export. One thing what we need from you is land at Port Qasim, so that we can establish our this thing. And the person who was heading the Board of Investments in the Board of Investment, first of all, they came very late after for this meeting. But when she came, she outrightly said, "No, we cannot give you land at Port Qasim. How about this near Thatta? They are building this business, the special economic zone. I think so. So this, she says that we can arrange that for you." So he says, "No, we have done the homework only on Port Qasim, because we would like to do this. So please help us so that we guarantee you, and this is the reason." So after that, we didn't hear anything, because it was outrightly rejected. First of all, it should not have been, because this thing should have come through proper channel. And I think the Chinese also made a mistake that they directly landed up in, but it came to me through an official letter. And I raised this issue afterwards with the Commerce Minister, that these sort of things happen, because the special economic zone, it hasn't functioned very well. It can be a big
it was the instrument of growth for China, but ours are.
It has not
been very functional.
It has become a real estate sort of a project. So the point I'm trying to make is that you have to make efforts to attract investment. You have to make efforts and provide facilities. So when you talked about this import tariff rationalization, I think the government has probably some plans, but my advice to the government will be that if you have, then do facilitate. Just announcing the policy will not get you the results. You have to implement this.
Implement it as well.
Steps also. So I think there is a lot more opportunity. How has the Vietnam, transformed? How is the Bangladesh? Bangladesh imports all the ingredients and then export the garments. So if the government of Pakistan has that type of a game plan, I think that will be very good.
So I had Hafiz Pasha sir on a Zoom call discussing investment, and he mentioned that the interest in investment in Pakistan is among the lowest it has been in like 2.5 decades. So do you see that as well, that the interest in investment, especially with the Pakistan-India war, the interest in investing in Pakistan beyond FMCGs has really gone down?
Yeah, I think he's right. I mean, I think India-Pakistan is a new factor, but I think the reason is that we are on the radar. Pakistan is on the radar of many foreign investors, but it's not a priority because we are not sending positive signals from here. Because all these potential foreign investors, they always talk to the existing investors, and the existing investors have issues about tax problem, about tax refund, about all the bad news goes, and therefore we do not sell the positive news about Pakistan, what can be done and what are the opportunities. Karachi has a security problem, Lahore has this problem, and that type of a thing. So we have to market Pakistan. How many investment conferences we have held outside Pakistan? We hold investment conference here in Pakistan, and therefore we invite whom we want to invite. And when they go back, why don't they invest? We invite them because somebody has told us to hold a conference, but have we invited them with some homework done beforehand as to what sort of project they would be interested? If you're calling up oil refinery people, or if you're calling some sort of engineering industry people, what is their background? Do you have a project? Do you have a feasibility? Do you want him or her to see what is the investment, what is the opportunity coming up? So right now, the only thing which has positively been handled is this about the Ricotic type projects that has been minerals, but there are so many things happening that that can be done. I don't know if you have followed or not. About 2 months back, Indonesia banned iPhone 16 in Indonesia. Told Apple, I will not allow this. We will not allow this into Indonesia unless you manufacture it in Indonesia. Apple, obviously, iPhone was a big thing for Indonesian, for Apple. So eventually, a lot of negotiations went on. They offered some small amount, this, that, the other. Eventually, they agreed to invest 100 million or a billion, I think $1 billion in Indonesia. Then they allowed the import of. So you have to play on your strength also. Are we in that position? We don't know. So the point is that you have to know where you can stand up, what is your potential. So coming back to your question about Pakistan is what Dr. Pasha told you. I think he's right that when we talk to the potential foreign investors, but we are on a weak wicket because we notice that we cannot see eye to eye when in terms of operational issues. It takes a hell lot of time if you are in a litigation here. It takes every other day I am handling some sort of a query as to why my company tax refund is not taking place, why is harassment being done. Pharmaceutical pricing, became such a big issue. In the process, so many companies left.
Yes.
Oil
in fact, I think the pharma sector is all local companies and none of the foreign countries.
And the government knew about it, but it became a political issue by increasing 5 rupees or 20 rupees. The medicine prices will go.
And a lot of people celebrate that we have such a strong local pharma sector, but then the FDA requirements that are met by them versus that are met by international companies, the best practices, the research, that doesn't get trickled down.
But at the same time, when God forbid, if you go for the cancer or latest invention, local companies cannot provide.
Yes.
So you have to import them at very fine.
And that's a problem because APIs, active pharmaceutical ingredients, are imported from India. And every time there's a conflict, it's like no imports, and then there's like, what did the poor cancer patient do? We need those APIs to make the cancer medicine.
API can come from China also, and under the international law, India cannot stop such type of a trade.
I don't think India listens to international law much. It did. It didn't with the Indus Water Treaty.
Well, I can't.
You can't comment on
That is a tricky question that you're asking me.
Yes.
But what I'm saying is that cancer and all the other latest inventions, they don't come to Pakistan because there is a threat that they can be copied, or secondly, pricing issue, this, that, the other becomes. So you know, intellectual property issue is very much a big problem for foreign investors here.
So, you know, Ehsan Malik sir was in the show earlier, and he suggested that yes, the US does want us to import more from US, but maybe we can also improve ease of doing business, but offer international intellectual property rights to their companies, so that their investors are more comfortable in Pakistan as well.
But Pakistan,
and then that would be good for the local businesses.
Pakistan is one of the best in intellectual property law.
Is it implemented?
Exactly. That's where
we have good laws. We just don't have good implementation.
That's right. I mean, so it is basically the implementation side of it. We sit on the policy board of intellectual property organization of Pakistan. The process is not very good. It takes time. And it's not, it's, you know, there are tribunals, and it takes time, and I think the punishment, mainly the punishment, is very, very minimal. I mean, Oxford University Press, for example, has a big issue, is that their books are copied, and the fine is 5,000 rupees or something like this, and first of all, there is no agency which monitors them. You know, should it be FIA, should it be police? You know, it is basically FIA. But is it a priority for them? You know, that is something, and therefore, overall the story is that it's not very well protected, and it is an area of concern.
When we talk about processes, there's so many processes that have fallen to the ground. Take privatization for instance. The whole PIA privatization became somewhat of a joke. So, going forward into the new budget, when we talk about tariff reforms, tax reforms, privatization, do you see political will to push through those reforms for implementation?
I think so. I think it should be, because
it should be, or is?
You're asking me a very sensitive question, okay. and I can't answer on their behalf. But I think we have reached to a level, if we don't state-owned enterprises, you know, then we will be not achieving our budgeted targets, and I think government cannot waste so much money you have saved on energy by renegotiating with so much bad taste in the minds of the other party, right? After that, if you do not get rid of these, you know, loss-making state-owned enterprises who are basically distribution companies, this, that, the other, the losses and transit losses are so high. I think that will be criminal.
Absolutely. IPPs were forced to renegotiate the existing contracts. Sovereign guarantee was violated, and here you have loss-making entities that are not being privatized. So, the irony of that.
I mean, it's no secret that these renegotiation on IPPs did send negative signals to foreign parents, and one by one they are selling it. Osh Power has been sold to Sapphire, for example, and others also has been are being considered. Hapco is, you know, had a different you know, setup. So the point is that, yeah, it is on the one hand you renegotiate with the producers, and on the other hand, if you do not make your systems more efficient, yeah, that will not be fair with the country.
Absolutely. But see, all of this, I mean, when I think of all the analysis I've done for previous budgets as well, a lot of it is the same. We need to digitize, we need to expand the tax base, we need to push through the reforms that we are proposing. Is there anything that you see different this year than you did in the years before?
I think the three things. I think one is that we First of all, I think the current government had in the last 2 years has delivered consistency of policy stability, and our rating has gone up. So, secondly, I think IMF sometimes is good, sometimes it's bad, but I think IMF is good because I think there is somebody who is twisting our arm, saying that you must deliver on your promise. So from that sense, I think maybe it is a desirable thing, and I think it is in the interest of the country. The government also wants to do it.
I think yes, FATF and IMF are the ones who pushed to close the Hawala Hundi routes, which is why our remittances have increased so much. If that wouldn't have happened, our current account surplus would not have been a current account surplus, it would be a deficit.
Looks like that the government also, the government has always wanted to, but I think sometimes it's the political will is not there, and I think that opportunity to postpone, in our view, is limited now.
And I think IMF is giving less leeway for postponement of these reforms.
And they should not. I think if you have made a commitment, I think we should honor.
We have the salaried class that is overtaxed, and then we have the corporate sector as well. I think in the Pakistan Banking Summit recently, they said repeatedly that more than 50% of their profits are taxed. So that must be discouraging foreign investment coming into Pakistan as well.
I think this is very important to note that we should not be coming with ad hoc actions. And on the banking sector that you mentioned, right now the tax is above 50%, and because they made super profit last year, so the clause came that you must do pay extra tax, and which is not very good. I think corporate sector has been subject to very strict monitoring. They've been paying taxes. They are one of the highest tax. For example, I think I've mentioned before, not necessarily in this program, the tobacco sector, for example, how heavily it is taxed and how much evasion is taking place in this,
I think, you mentioned that like only 44% of the tobacco sector is the formal sector, and the rest of it is the informal
and
sector.
98% of the tax. These two companies, Philip Morris and British American Tobacco, they are paying 98%.
They are paying 98% of that for 44% of the market.
Okay, and the 56% tax evaded segment is only contributing 2% of the tax.
I'm completely against the cigarette sector. I think the taxes on them should be higher, but it's so unfair that there's so many counterfeit cigarettes available that are not paying taxes at all.
Exactly, and they don't carry health warning, they don't pay taxes, so there is a serious damage. So this is one sector. The other thing that, in Pakistan, the sales tax is very high, 18%, and what we have recommended is that gradually it should be brought in line with the region. Regional average is not higher than 15%. Thailand is less than 10%, this, that, the other. Because, if you have very high sales tax, then there is a tendency to evade it. If you have a lower one, then I think that incentive to make money is or evade taxes is not that much. So similarly, corporate tax, for example, right now is 29%, and what we have said that not in one go, but every year you should start reducing it by 1%, and in 5 years' time you bring it to 25%. That's what we have recommended. Similarly, we have said that super tax should be done away with, because that came with a limited objective. So over a 3-year period, because if you make taxes too high, then you are first of all eliminating the investment in this country, because people will not be incentivized to make more investment and make more money and then give it to the government all the time. They want to make money for the expansion also. Secondly, I think it also discourages this sector from growing and making money. Why would somebody make more money and pay more taxes?
Absolutely.
So from that angle, there are many other recommendations we have made on easing making it, facilitating it. There is many power has been given to the commissioners income tax. For example, let me give you one example, is that if you are a taxpayer and if you have imported some product and you have paid advance tax at the initial stage on an income tax on import, that is not allowed to be adjusted, because for that you need a certificate from the commissioner, and that power was given, and commissioner was not going to give because he or she was under pressure to boost the revenue. We said this is not fair, and similarly more than 80% of the tax collected in this country is through withholding regime. And that's very complicated, and you need to hire accountants to.
Could you explain the withholding regime, because I don't really understand it?
So 98% of your salary, if you hire services, you have to deduct taxes, everything, and that's why people like to pay extra tax but not be a filer. They don't want to become be threatened by the officials and all the others. So all these things we have mentioned in our proposals is that rationalize it, reduce it. Similarly, our legal system is such that if you if you come under, if you want to resolve a dispute, it takes hell lot of time, right? Tax dispute also takes hell lot of time. The Chief Justice right now is doing Supreme Court has I think taken notice of this, but that is on the old cases. But why should people file taxes cases against FBR or any other authority? It takes a lot of time and send wrong messages to. I'm talking of the foreign investors. So from that angle, make life simple. I mean, how one has to study what has Vietnam done, what has Cambodia done, what has Indonesia doing, and Malaysia is doing. Why people invest there and why not here? It's a big country. Pakistan is a big country. Pakistan can attract. It has talent. It has skill. Why can't we bring those investment here? So but it's not going to be able to attract investment by making speeches and by making, you have to demonstrate. Let these existing foreign investors be your spokesman. If they stand up, it will have more credibility. If you as a minister stand up, you will have less credibility compared to those who are invested here, and they say that I can guarantee you that the government of Pakistan has done this thing right. They know all. The foreign investors knows everything.
I mean, if the other foreign investor is not doing well, whatever the government is saying, they're going to look at the example.
And the biggest challenge in Pakistan is foreign investor is that there is no consistency of policy, and stability is not there. All of a sudden, if you short of revenue, there will be a new regime in the morning coming to you and saying that you are now subject to this. So that type of messaging is not very positive, and I think these are the sort of things that we have mentioned. I mean, at the end of the day, it is our country. We are first Pakistanis, and then representative of the foreign investors. So all these recommendations are in the interest of the country. That listen, look at it from somebody else's investor's point of view, not necessarily from our local, short vision on tomorrow's tax targets and things like this.
I know. I mean, the lowest hanging fruit over here is implementation. It's also the hardest. Just do what you're saying you're going to do.
Exactly.
Great. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I think this was a very interesting discussion, and I think the main takeaway for this discussion is that we have good policies. We just need to have the political will to push through.
And we have no time.
We have no time left to keep delaying this.
Exactly. Right. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
It was a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.